Welcome to Second Chapter, Unforgettable Career Stories Podcast. I'm Karen Sharp-Price, and I'm so glad you're here. Back in 2020, I launched a podcast called SharpHR Career Corner. The goal was simple, to create a library of real conversations with people in all kinds of roles across industries sharing their career stories. Over 3 years, in 53 episodes, those stories became a reminder that there's no real single path to a meaningful career. Now I'm back with a new mini-series, Second Chapter. This is for those of you who love the original podcast and for those just finding us for the first time. Since COVID, I've noticed something powerful. So many people have paused, reflected, and realized that life is just too short to stay stuck in work that doesn't fit anymore. Second Chapter is about those moments, the pivots, the risks, the brave decisions to choose work that actually feels meaningful. These are real stories from real people who dared to change direction and start their next chapter. I hope you enjoy. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today's conversation is with Kelsey Beck, who spent her early career working in human resources and knew fairly early on that she wanted to make a change before beginning her second chapter in marketing. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about your transition because there's a few elements within your transition that I think people will be able to relate to, give them some good ideas on what they could do to make a transition. So we're going to jump right in here. So you held senior roles as an HR generalist and manager, managing complex areas, payroll, benefits, union relations for hundreds of people. What were some of the most challenging and rewarding aspects of working in high volume manufacturing based HR?
That is a great question. I found the most rewarding was working with people to help them excel in the career that they wanted to create for themselves. So, if there was someone who is starting out in an entry level role, helping them get the like a game plan. That's the word I was looking for. A game plan on how they could go forward into what their dream role would be. So that was my favorite part. Just working with people. I loved onboarding and recruiting people because there's nothing more exciting than starting a new job that you're excited about. So those I would say were my favorite parts. I think the most challenging, definitely any laying off was hard for me. And in HR, you tend to always be I don't want to say the enemy because that sounds really mean, but you're not you can't be friends with everybody, and people who come in are generally afraid of you. And even though I generally think of myself as a not scary person, I found that a lot of people were really afraid to even come and talk to me. And that was one of the most challenging parts, trying to get people to open up to me and try to have engaging conversations with employees.
I remember those days when I was in HR, and boy, when you start in an HR role and you can feel the difference, and people really don't want to, they might find a different hallway to walk down if they know you're coming.
Yeah.
So it is definitely something that people they don't necessarily need to fear
No.
HR, but I think they think that HR means cutting jobs and all
Yes.
that.
And I
And
think
it's a
like
very
people,
small percentage.
yeah. And I think some people were afraid to like let loose a little bit around me, like joke around. Obviously, as long as you're being appropriate, it
Yeah.
was fine. But, you know, people stay very rigid and stoic around you. And, you could make a joke and everyone kind of widens their eyes and they're not really sure what to do.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I remember, and for me, I think that was the challenging part that I actually enjoyed
mm,
was to get them to overcome that because
yes.
I would be, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to say too nice, but I would extend myself as much as I possibly can to help people so that it would be hard for somebody not to like me.
And that was the goal, right? That's always the goal. I had candy in my office. I had different like different stress balls and fun little fidget toys. So when people came in, I had a lava lamp, a light bright. I tried to make it fun.
I had a
Um,
couch at one time in
oh,
my
I wish I had a couch.
I did. I would try anything just to make it more relaxing for
More
people.
homey. Yeah, right? Like
Yeah.
at one point it was really stressful and I don't remember I remember it was just a stressful time for the business. I don't know. So one day I had a little, honestly, if I'm being so honest, I had a headache and I didn't want my fluorescent lights on. So I turned off my lights in my office, but I had all the twinkle lights and a nice low lit lamp. And I
Mhm.
played spa music and people came in and they were like, this is the best it's ever been in here. And I'm like, I am more than happy to do this every day if this gets you guys to come in and come talk and say hi.
Yeah, those were the fun days. You
Yeah.
know,
There was definitely some great fun times. I miss some of the people I work with very dearly, but I am happy I made my transition. So
and we're going to get into that really soon. So, just a couple more questions about like HR. So, looking at your HR experience, you were consistently responsible for like internal communications or newsletters or maybe event planning, tasks with sort of a creative marketing flair. Was this where the seed was planted, or was there a specific moment in time where you decided to pursue a full-time career in marketing?
I think that is definitely where the seed was planted. And in my first major role out of college, I was a human resources benefits and payroll coordinator. And an opportunity that one of my managers gave me was to work with the communications team because every or once a quarter, they would do these large presentations with the HR team and the communication team. And they would have the whole group. And there was a subset group of people, and it was kind of a volunteer add-on to your role that would help create the PowerPoints, invite special guests from other departments to talk about what they had going on, things of that nature. And my boss asked me if I would be interested in doing something like that. And I just wanted, at the time, I took it because I just wanted to show interest in moving up and doing as much as I could. But I think that was actually where the seed was planted because I did that for a year and a half, I think. So, I would do my normal job and then like once or twice a week we would have meetings, creating PowerPoints or even doing like fun after work events. And this was during COVID, so it was like all virtual based. So it was like one day we did a virtual wine and cheese night where we had a chef come on and teach people, wine and cheese pairings just to kind of
That's
get people
cool.
connected because it wasn't the same, obviously, being virtual as it was when we were in person. And the world has changed since then, so it's a little different now. But at the time, it was a big transition for a lot of people. So I think that's where the seed was planted for me. I loved working with that team. That was when I worked there, a job opened on the communication team that I worked very closely with. And I
Uh-huh.
actually applied for the role. I did not get it. It went to somebody who was internal into the team. They moved up within the position and then I don't think they backfilled the first role. But I did interview and it was great. And I think I was like, wow, that would have been a really cool opportunity to do something a little different. But I still enjoyed doing my HR career. So I kind of just kept doing what I was doing. And then I moved on to a different role after that. That was more HR based, but also they had seen my previous experience and said, hey, it was more local factory based. So they didn't have a communication
Mm.
dedicated employees. So they were like, do you mind doing our newsletter and putting up bulletin boards and creating PowerPoints for our TVs? And I was like, I would love to do that. And then the more I started doing it, I think the more I realized I really loved doing that part of my job and realizing like that was the things I was looking most forward to doing throughout the day, unless my HR specific tasks.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't do them, I did them. But it was just definitely like, starting the day, it was like, oh, I can't wait until I get to make a fun. We would do like hit, the the plant history. And so we would find some old photos of people who had worked there for 40 years when it was their first day. And then we would put them on a bulletin board and it was kind of fun. And, it was like interactive with the employees. So it also was fun in that way. But it was also fun to kind of have that creative side when HR is, I wouldn't say always a very creative field. So it was kind of fun to have that little flair of something.
Right, right. So that sounds like that was the core motivator behind, making a transition. What did you hope to find in the digital space that HR maybe wasn't any longer providing?
I think what I was hoping to find, well, I think that's a very interesting question because I think for my HR career, I was no longer enjoying what I was doing due to a lot of COVID regulations and a lot of the last company that I was with before I made my transition was doing a lot of layoffs and things of that nature. So I think realizing that that was no longer my passion, I think I just kind of fell out of love with it a little bit, HR, which is I'm of the mindset HR is a career that you have to love because you are working with people every day who are experiencing challenges
Mhm.
that are very meaningful to them. And if you are not in love with what you're doing, you are not doing a service to the employees you are working for. And I think that's where I got to a point of when you're kind of dreading to go into work and do that work, I was not serving the employees the way I wanted to be doing anymore. So I think what I was hoping to find in marketing was, I really liked that creative aspect. I really liked what I was doing. And I was hoping to find that passion for work again. So I was hoping to find that in the space, which I know is a really like wide answer to that question. But I think just finding that creative aspect of myself, I think that I was really looking for that too, tapping into that a little bit, having a little bit less rigidity. I don't even know if that's a word, but
Yeah, no,
like,
I mean, I get that because it's
yeah.
so, HR is so powered by laws and regulations and procedures and processes. And it
And then,
totally is different than marketing because marketing is, we want you to be creative. HR is, you can't do that because of this and this and this and this.
yes.
So
And
I
you're
totally
always
get that.
trying to make sure you're following every rule to a T, because obviously you don't want to make any mistakes, especially when it comes to things of that serious of nature.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I
Marketing
totally
so
get
far
that.
has been definitely a lot less rigid in that way, which I liked. I liked not feeling like, I don't know. I only worked in HR really during COVID. I started in 2019. I was working for a few months before COVID happened. I felt like the rules were changing so rapidly all the time that it
Yep.
was hard to feel as though I was always caught up and was following everything,
Yeah. And the
it would change every
changes.
day, and it was like it was hard to keep up, and we did, and we made it work, but it was stressful. It was very stressful at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in, well, New York, it's the only place I've lived, but the laws when I was doing it could change within, months. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you just all of a sudden get all your processes and procedures set, and then all of a sudden a new law comes in and you have to change it. And then with COVID and all the new laws and then the sick time
Yes.
laws and just
Yes.
tracking all of that had
Yes, and
to
in
have
the
been a
beginning, I mean,
nightmare.
it was like, not to get too into it because it's a hard topic, I would say, but it was like you need a doctor's note. Now you don't need a doctor's note. Now you can't even ask for a doctor's note. And then, it was, 2 weeks, then it was 1 week, then we went back to a week and a half. I mean, don't quote me on any of this because it's been a minute.
Yeah.
But it was like constantly changing, and even I felt like, you're looking at government websites and they weren't even updated with the brand new thing. So it was like you were trying to do everything
The
correctly,
best you
but
could.
it was a lot. It was a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
But
So the marketing world is driven by specific tools, Spotify and Meta and so many others. Uh, you probably had to get some certificates. You had a little bit of hands-on learning from your days when you were mark or HR/slash marketing. So can you walk us through some practical steps that you took to build out your digital marketing skills enough so that you could make this transition?
Yes. So there was a few things I did. The first was I was looking up, I was unemployed when I made the career transition. So I was really trying, I didn't have a lot of money to spend on certifications. Some certifications cost up to $2,000. You could go back to school, all of that thing. I just did not have that. The privilege to do that. So I found that HubSpot has a lot of free certifications. So I took a few of those, more than a few. They had classes and certifications. Just because I also, you know, even if you're interviewing for, I have a degree in business administration and I took marketing classes in college, but it had been a few years. I wanted to, when I got to a place where I was interviewing, be able to speak on it and know what was current because 5 years is a long time in any career. And at the time, I didn't know what speciality I wanted in marketing. There's a lot of different fields like digital marketing, social media marketing, some is data centered. So there's a lot of like different avenues you could take. So I think it was also kind of helpful because I was taking those certifications and kind of discovering what I really liked
Oh, okay.
as well. So HubSpot was a great one. And then I also took on, there's a website called Udemy. It's Udemy, I
Hmm.
think. They have a lot of classes that are quite on the lower price side. So, and they're certifications by specialists in the field. So I took a few classes through them. I would say like they were like $25, but they were like certifications that were like 25-hour courses. I mean, they were like fully fledged courses. It was
Wow.
really a lot of really informative information. Also, some of it was just like playing around with the systems. Like, I mean, I didn't have a Shopify website. I wasn't selling anything, but you can kind of play around on the back end of Google Analytics without having anything. So I kind of got to play around in there, learn how they worked. And even in my current career, I don't use HubSpot and I don't use Google Analytics. We use different but similar software, but it has helped me, like learning similar things has
So
helped
how
me.
did you know, like, how did you know which ones to look into and which ones to take?
So I think some things were just me just searching. If you were on Google, entry level marketer looking to take a certification, and some Reddit posts would come up with people who were marketers and what they would suggest, or I would type in free marketing courses and kind of just see what was out there.
Okay.
But a lot of it was like going on forums and seeing what people said was the most useful. Also, working with you, Karen, I had a few people that you connected me with a few people in my field that were able to kind of give me some guidance on what helped them in their career, or what I should, even if they didn't have a certification in mind, they could tell me, hey, HubSpot's really big in the field, so you may want to learn something about that. So then I would go on my own and kind of try and figure out a way that I could learn that to a degree. And even outside of the people you connected with me with, connecting with other people on LinkedIn who were in my region, who were in the career I wanted to, you know, if they chose to connect with me, just sending them a quick message, just being like, you are in my dream field, help me get to where you're at. Is there anything, any classes, any certifications? And I got to meet with some people. We did a marketing meetup. They had like an after work marketing meetup. So I got to meet, I think, 10 people in
Oh,
the field
wow.
just by somebody I met, I think, on LinkedIn, or someone you introduced me to on LinkedIn. I don't remember, but they were really nice and the whole group was super nice. They were all very experienced, but they were all really happy to help me and tell me what was worth looking into.
I
Um,
think that's key. I mean, you said a couple things. One, looking at what you need in your career to get those kind of certifications. But the other part is talking to people that are in the field just ahead of you or down the road. They're in it, they know what they're using, they know what kind of tools and resources would be helpful for someone starting out. Was that intimidating for you to reach out to people?
oh yes, it was very intimidating. It's intimidating I think whenever you do anything new, it's going to be intimidating. Someone said if you're learning something new and it's hard, that's why it's hard is because you're learning. It's not gonna it shouldn't be easy at first. So I think yeah, at first it was really hard. The first four messages that I sent out were like really scary. And like if someone didn't answer me, I was like, I've bothered them and in reality they probably just don't open their LinkedIn or whatever very often or they're busy and you kind of just learn to get over it. But yeah, it was very intimidating, but most people want to help. Most people are really want to help you succeed. And my husband actually knew somebody who was in the marketing field as well, and he introduced me to her, and we had a coffee date. And we'd never met before. He knew her from an extra, like he does a club outside of work that he met her through, and she was a really great help as well. And we're best friends now. So you never know who you're gonna meet too. Because
Yeah.
people who are in careers that you want to be in, I think have usually a mindset very close to you too. So you could meet really good friends too. So obviously, maybe not what you're going for, but there's a lot of really great people out there that it helps you build that community.
Yeah, and I think you need to have the community in whatever you're doing. Now, what you did while you were in the process of picking up these certificates and talking to people, you also launched a blog to document your transition, which I think was a brilliant strategy. How did using your personal blog act as a portfolio or maybe just a proof of concept when you were in interviews that you could talk about some of these things? How did that help? And looking back, do you think that that was a good idea to do the blog?
I think it was, I'll start with this. I think it was a good idea. I will say that why I started it, there was a few reasons I started it. I was unemployed for, I don't know when I started it, how long, but I was unemployed for almost a year. So I want to say 3 months in, even working with you, Karen, and working with, you have a group of people that we get to connect with and talk about these struggles. It was very isolating, being at home every day and not having like real people to talk to.
Mhm.
And I like, even though you have your friends and things like that, 8 hours a day where all your friends are at work and you're applying to jobs and you're wondering what you're doing. And I started to feel like there has to be other people out there. And I knew there was because I had connected with you and met them, but I felt like maybe there were some people who weren't privileged enough to be in a really great group like that who may be wondering the same thing. So I decided to create the blog and it served as a few purposes. It served for an outlet for me, to kind of explain the transition and how it was going and what I struggled with, what things were helping me that I thought maybe could help other people that I hadn't thought until after I had done it. But it also helped me. I launched my blog through Bluehost and
Hmm.
WordPress. So learning how to create a website, learning how to, there's coding involved. I would not say I'm a coder by any means, but learning the basics enough to launch it, doing those things was a really great skill set because, even Shopify, I mean, you're working with a website. I work with Shopify now in my current role. Bluehost was more in depth. So
Hmm.
having done Bluehost, I felt like Shopify was a lot easier to learn because it was a little bit more regimented. Where Bluehost is you can do anything with Bluehost, so you can create it down to the code where Shopify kind of has that all created for you for the most part. And we have an external person where I work now who does the back end stuff for the website, so thankfully you don't have to do that. But I think learning how to do that and also having writing samples really helped a lot of times when you're going into a marketing or communications careers, they want to see a writing sample. And it's kind of hard to think of them off the spot when, like, I've heard of people using Chat GPT. I'm not a huge AI user personally, but I've heard of people using Chat GPT to make prompts for themselves for writing samples. So if anybody's out there is thinking about doing it, you may not have to launch your own blog. You can use AI to be like, if you wanted to make something up, they can help you make something up to make those writing prompts. But it was something to point to, and I had put a lot of work into it, and I had figured out how to create this website and upload photos and keep it going. And I think it was, and my boss actually, that I'm really good friends with my boss that I'm working with currently. She said to me that after my interview, she actually read my entire blog,
Oh,
first
wow.
start to end. She said that like she really liked me as a person. I didn't have a lot of experience comparatively to other people in that she had interviewed, but my personality, I guess she said, and she was like, "Well, I decided to read your blog and I really liked it. I read the whole thing," which is a huge compliment. But
Yeah, that's
but
great.
also it was great to know that it had actually worked. It had done something for me. It had helped.
Hmm.
And I posted it on my LinkedIn. I like to think that maybe somewhere it helps somebody else.
You know,
And
I have to say what I enjoyed about the those blogs were the crazy interviewing stories that you have been through. Like there was
yes,
a stream of them for a while that
I, yeah,
it was amazing what you went through in the interviewing process.
yes, it's so funny too. I think and I've said this like some coming from someone who interviewed for a living for a while, 5 years of interviewing. Most of it was really weird getting in these rooms with people who I had, you hear horror stories of interviewing, and I have experienced some myself now, and I have actually got up and left in the middle of a few interviews, just because of how crazy they were. But it was
Is
kind
the
of
blog still out? Is it still
so
up?
the blog is currently, which I'm hoping to have it fixed. The blog is actually currently like this. I have it on the website is under construction because I'm doing a few things
Okay.
to fix a few things. I'm hoping to have it out by the end of February and
Okay.
a new post up. But
Do you know what is it under the same name?
it is. It
Can
is. It's
people look
under
for it down the road?
Yes, it's pathspoken.com. So yes, you should be able to find it down the road. And if for whatever reason something happens, please feel free. I have all of them. So if you ever want to read them, I'm more than happy to send you the Google Doc that they sit on. If that, but I had some working a full-time job and also managing a website has been a little bit hard. So, and there's been a few issues, so I'm working through that right now.
See that. But I
Yeah.
think people could really relate to hearing those stories because
Yeah.
it just, as coming from an HR background, it just boggles my mind that interviewing can still be crazy out there sometimes. Like,
Yeah, I've had a few interviews where the person has admitted to me that they had never interviewed before.
yeah.
Um, which if anybody owns a business out there and you're interviewing, take a course. Don't just walk in and do do it. Um, because a lot of times it's interesting to say the least. It's interesting, I'll
Yes.
say.
And
There's
and
some
I will leave this spot with acupuncture was a really good story. So,
I yeah,
so if
yeah.
anybody wants to read about that one, they can.
Yes, yes, which I found out, Karen, that was legal what they so
Really?
yeah, I guess spoiler alert, they asked me to take the needles out of patients as a marketing coordinator. There's more to the story for sure, but I'm not a needle person. I don't like blood or anything like that. I
Because
have
they
no
were going to ask you ahead of time that was why it was going to be okay because it didn't really fall into the realm of marketing.
I guess I wasn't sure, so I wasn't sure if that was legal when they first asked me. I declined that role and I left in the middle of that interview. Politely, if anybody's out there, you leave politely. I said, I'm not interested. Thank you so much. I don't want to waste any time. I politely excused myself because I just knew that wasn't, I wasn't, yeah, I didn't want to waste anybody's time. But I wasn't quite sure if that was legal as a person with no training other than someone kind of just telling you how to pull needles out of somebody if you were allowed to do that. And I have heard through the grapevine it is.
Wow.
So, and I don't, I'm not saying every practice does that. I'm not anti acupuncturist or anything like that.
Just
It was
not
just
a
an odd
marketing
experience I
role.
had.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
God.
Exactly. So,
Well, HR is governed by, like we said, rules and compliances. Well, marketing on the other side is creativity and taking risks, really. What was the biggest mindset shift that you had to make when moving from that risk-averse field from HR to a fast-paced, testing, driven field like digital marketing?
I think the biggest mindset shift, ironically, I didn't have that hard of a time, but maybe it was because I had that 6 month break where I was working. I think if maybe I had left HR and then a week later started marketing, there might have been a little bit harder of a transition. But because I was almost a year, I say 6 months, but it was almost a year, kind of making that transition, my mindset was already shifting.
Gotcha.
But I would say that not necessarily like risk or anything like that, mindset shift is in HR. A lot of HR people tell you you shouldn't make friends with your coworkers,
Mm,
just because they don't want there to be a conflict of interest if anything were to happen, which I understand the mindset for that. I always had a hard time with that personally.
yeah.
And it was a weird mindset shift when I started my new role, realizing that that wasn't something I had to actively think about.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
don't know if it's not, it was a weird, and like it was a weird circumstance, like where like and people weren't afraid to talk to me. It was totally different. And
Ah,
people would come, and marketing is kind of fun.
I
So
hope
people always
so.
want to yeah, yeah. So people always want to see what you're doing, and they want to chat with you, and they want to, if you're making a video, like my current role, and not all marketing is like this, but I do a lot of social media marketing. So I do a lot of Facebook posts and photos, and so I think people are always really excited to come and help me, and if they can be in a video a lot of times, it's a different environment. So I think that was a big mindset shift. I also think the way that I had to think about things, like when somebody, like as somebody who's been in HR for a while, you look at a place, and you're thinking as a human resources professional. And I don't know if any HR people are out there, you may know what I'm talking about, but like when someone says something and you're like, maybe we should talk to them about that. Or if someone says like, oh, I really wish that I could do this job. Part of me is like, oh, I wonder if we could get them to be there. It's not my job anymore to do that,
Hmm.
So I kind of have to like remember, like, that's not my job. And like, obviously I want to encourage anybody to do whatever they want, but also it's not my role to
Help
facilitate it.
them.
So I have
Yeah.
to like, so taking a step back in that way, that's been a weird mindset shift for me too.
I
So
had never thought about that though, with you have to kind of keep a hands out type of space between you and the employees.
yeah,
When I first started, and I was, I hate to even admit this, it was probably like 30 years ago. One of my first jobs, I got to do all the fun stuff to bring people in to get along with each other, all the departments. Before I came, departments didn't really like to socialize with each other. They didn't really, there was almost this hierarchy of what department was higher than the other. And
that still happens. That
yeah,
happens a
and
lot.
so I came in and I brought in bowling tournaments and volleyball tournaments and softball, all these things, and they were fun, and I was a part of it. And at my age at that point, because I was just starting out my career, I became friends with a lot of them. And to this day, I still, one of my best friends was somebody that I met there. And uh I'm still connected to a number of people from that very first job because it was just so
Yeah.
much fun. Going forward though, in other roles, I really did have that kind of wall between me and other people more so than what I really knew when I first started.
I think thankfully for me, I always had somebody on site who was like above me in terms of,
Uh,
so
that helps.
it did help. It allowed me to have some friendly relationships, and knowing that there was like a check and balance system. Even though I think of myself as impartial, and I told people who were friendly with me, and I think they would even tell, if you asked them, they would tell you. I would say, I really like being friends with you, but if you do something in which
I
I
have
am
to
gonna
fire
have to
you.
like if I have to reprimand you, I'm going to do that. That is my job. I'm going to do that. So if you can't handle being friends with me because I may have to get you in trouble,
That's
or if
hard.
you get yourself in trouble, not if if you get yourself in trouble and I have to act upon it,
Yeah.
you have to know that that's my job, and that's where our friendship has to end. And that's how I got away with a few friendships, but again, it was few and far between, and a lot of the times you're friends with your other HR people.
True. And I don't think, I mean, in most of the places that I worked, I was the only HR person. So
I know,
it was an
and that's the
island.
thing.
I was
Usually
on an
maybe have one
island.
other person.
Yeah, I was definitely on my own. But I don't think most people that aren't in HR, and when we first started this conversation talking about how people, when a new HR person comes along, many of the employees, kind of stay back. But I don't think most employees understand that it is very lonely as an HR person
So
because you
lonely.
can't dive in and be the marketing person that gets to put all these people in videos and hang
Yeah.
out with them and do fun things. You've got to keep this professional
Mhm.
stance between, and that makes it a little bit more challenging.
I have so much respect for people in HR. I didn't leave HR with with any sort of like discontent for the people who are in it. I think
Yeah.
people who are in it and are successful and do great things are my heroes. I think it is a hard, lonely job, and the rate for people leaving HR is quite high,
Mm.
because it's quite lonely. I moved to my city uh the year I started HR. And a lot of people say, meet your friends at work. And that just was never a possibility for me. So moving to a new city, not being able to make friends at work, and also I'm not much of a drinker myself. So not going out and partying or anything like that. Like it was hard to
That's
meet
hard.
people, so there was a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that go into HR that I think, we're now I'm in marketing and I'm friends with all my coworkers, and I love it. It's so much fun. Um,
Well,
that's the best part.
Well, now that you're actively working in marketing, what has been like the biggest, maybe most pleasant surprise about your new career, about your time, or is there anything that you miss most about your time in HR?
I would say the most pleasant surprise for me, I work with in a small business currently, so just I knew in marketing that I would be doing a lot of things that interacted with people more, but especially in the small business sense, I get to meet a lot of our customers and interact with them, and I think there's something really special about getting to know a group of people, and I think that has been a really pleasant, like I knew I'd be interacting with people, but a lot of times marketing is, especially like corporate marketing, from what I understand, and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but from what I understand, it's, you're behind a screen. You don't get to always interact with your customers. I think that's been really special, is getting
Mm.
to work with them. And like today we had a big event and I got to spend at least 2 hours with these people, and they're excited to be there. And I got to interview a few people and do some video, and they're so fun. And I don't know, it's very fun. I think that has been like the most surprising and exciting thing is I never thought a job could be so exciting and fun all the time.
Oh,
And I'm always having fun. So I think that's been like the biggest change for me. What I miss about HR, if I'm being honest, I don't miss a lot. Um, I will say one of the things I was thinking about was I miss the pay. They do HR, it may be lonely, but you get compensated most of the time for that loneliness. The marketing field, you get paid quite a bit less.
mm.
So I took quite a large pay cut transitioning. I don't regret it. I don't have any children though, so I guess it's easier for me to not regret in the fact of I don't have people actively relying on me for that source. I have myself and my husband, and we figure it out. But I would say there's something special about seeing someone who's been working towards an opportunity being able to give that opportunity to somebody. Where like if someone starts out as a employee working on a floor and they really want to be in, a manager of their department, and they work their way up and they get it and they've worked really hard and they deserve it. There's something really special about that, which there's great things about marketing too, but it's great to see other people succeed. It's really
Yeah.
great to see other people succeed and do their dreams. And I like to think that's what I did with myself. I did it for myself. I pursued my dreams, and I think that is, are my passions. And I think it's really something special to watch people enjoy what they do.
That's interesting that you brought that up because I don't think I ever put the two together from HR from my perspective when I was doing that. helping people and helping solving their problems and making their life a little bit easier, all those reasons. And then when you just said that, when the one of the best things about a career coach is when their client calls them and says, I got the job, and
Mhm.
that they're excited and they're beaming and they can't wait to get going. Like that is the ultimate best thing. And so
It
I never tied those two together, but that is a very similar thing from what I used to do.
yeah, it's something like it's we're all people on this big floating rock, as they say, but I think there was a big mindset even now of, you get a job, you do it, even if you don't like it. You put
Mhm.
your years in and you leave.
Yeah.
And I think life is too short to be unhappy like that. And it was hard to make that transition. And Karen knows because I called her crying in the beginning. It's hard to make that decision and kind of put yourself at what feels like a risk. But I think it was, I can say I'm now 5 months into my new role. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I don't regret going into HR for 5 years. It taught me a lot. But I think making that transition, I don't know. I think it was something so worth it. I think it was something so worth it. And I think if you're thinking about it and you've been really thinking about it I thought about it for 2 years, if I'm being very honest with myself. I had inklings and then I would kind of just like put it to the back of my mind and I would say, but I'm happy here. I'm happy here. But I was content. I wouldn't say I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
I was content and content fades, as of this new job, I don't find myself wondering like, okay, well, I like the people. It's like, I don't find myself being like, but I really wish I was doing something else. I like what I do. I like the people,
That's great.
and there's not that what if I did something different, you
Yep.
know?
Well, that's a great segue into our last question, and that is for the people that might be listening who are happy about certain aspects of their jobs, but they just feel this something inside of them that keeps coming back and telling them maybe there's something else. Maybe I could be happier doing something else. But that whole idea is really scary and I don't even know where to begin and I don't think I can take that risk. But what do you think? Like, is there one single best piece of advice that you can give to somebody that might be sitting on the fence right now, thinking about like what they're doing? And again, it could be anything, but what they're doing and how they use all those skills that they already have in doing something else and finding that other opportunity that they could use those skills in. Do you have any single piece of advice for anybody who's kind of where you were for those 2 years? What got you moving? What actually pushed you?
Karen Sharp Price. Find yourself a Karen. I would say I'm being honest, and I'm not saying this just because I'm on your podcast here, but I would say that was like, I had toyed with the idea for so long, and I was like, let me just talk to somebody who knows more than I. And we did a lot in the beginning to kind of narrow down my choices because there was a lot of choices in the beginning. I wasn't quite sure if it was communications, marketing. I was creative. I liked the idea of interior design, and maybe going back to school. There was a lot of options. Karen knows. I think finding somebody to talk to if you can, even just for 40 minutes, get the ball rolling. Get the ball rolling. And if you're really, really lost, there may be a career test you could take out there, like, a quick little, like, I don't know. In high school, we took them where it was like, those career tests. We took one together, but ours was more in depth. But even like a little one, just like, or even just find if you like, communications and you like talking to people and you like doing this, even just looking up on the internet, like what jobs involve this
Mhm.
and kind of or even just perusing job boards and just look at titles that seem interesting and read what they have and if you or what they're looking for and kind of go from there, which is that's not a single answer, Karen. You just asked for one single thing.
Well, no, that's okay.
I
Because,
think
well, here's the thing, it's a process.
it's a long process. I
Yeah.
don't think I think if you're thinking it's going to be an overnight snap
Right.
thing,
Right. It's
you're
not.
wrong. It's not.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
and I think that could be one of the reasons why people are afraid to take a step because they're afraid that all of a sudden this door is going to open and they're going to fall into this abyss. And
mhm.
what if they don't like it? And how do they turn around and go back to where they were? But the process is not that way at all. You you do the internal first of who you are, what you like, what you don't like. Then you do assessments.
Right.
Then you talk to somebody about those assessments. Then you do the research on
Yeah.
all of those careers. And then you go and talk to people that are in those careers to see
Yeah.
which one better. So that whole process is not an overnight thing. And at
No.
any given point of those steps, you could say, you know what? I thought the grass was going to be greener over on the other side, but I've decided that it's not, and I'm pretty content where I am, and then you
Yeah.
stay. So it's not like you start this thing and you have to make a move if you start it.
Right. And
No.
I would say too that if you ask any, and in HR, I had the privilege of talking to a lot of people in different fields. So I guess this is like I had that opportunity, but ask around, ask your friends, ask your family how they got to be in the role that they are in today. It is,
Mhm.
unless it's a specialized field like a doctor or, a
Yeah,
lawyer,
a brain
maybe.
surgeon. Yeah,
Yeah, something where it's like, you had to go to school for 12 years, a lot of the times people did not start out doing what they ended up doing.
absolutely.
Not even close. And I think, especially when you graduate and you do what you went to school for, you kind of feel like, okay, well, I did what I said I was going to do. I think people who succeed and go far, I think, follow what feels right.
Yeah,
And
and that changes along the way
it
too.
does. It
That's
changes.
the
Yeah.
thing, you know?
I mean, eh, if your favorite snack right now was your favorite snack when you were 1 years old, it's like your preferences and your things change all the time. Like, you know, people make New Year's resolutions. Your goals change from year to year.
Yeah.
There's, you know, people change their mind all the time, and I think there is a stigma of like, you should follow on the path in which you started, and I think
It's the old way.
I know, and it's like, and I think just it's okay to change your mind. It is
Yeah.
okay to change your
I
mind.
mean, people nowadays, well, if we look back, our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, they got a job. Usually it was with somebody because of somebody that they knew, either their father or their grandfather, somebody that was in it. So then they thought, oh, I should just go that way because that seems to be the right way to go. They get
Right.
into a job and they'd stay in that company for 50 years.
Forever.
They get their
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
But now people want,
Literally get
yeah,
their
they
watch.
literally get the watch. I don't think we get watches anymore, but
No,
but
not anymore, but my grandfather got his watch.
did
I
he?
remember.
Yeah, see, I told
Yes.
you. But
Yeah.
nowadays, what people do is they will, in their lifetime, people in their early 20s, even late 20s nowadays, will be changing their careers three, four, five times in their lifetime. Now, that's not a job, it's a career.
Right.
So what that means is you gather your soft skills and your hard skills along the way, and you keep
Right.
bringing them with you along
Right.
the way. Hi,
Yeah.
Kitty.
Sorry.
And and so as you develop and you grow, you take that with you. You don't leave them at HR and then go
Right.
into marketing and then leave marketing and stay there, keep your skills there and then move on to something else. You're bringing all that with you, which is making you grow into a really strong employee for anybody down the road that wants to make a change. So
Yeah.
I just think that the mindset nowadays has
I
to be
know.
changed a little bit.
And I think it's how exciting is it that we have that opportunity too. And there's so many
Yeah.
different, even within like marketing and human resources, and I've never been in other fields, but I'm sure this is the case. Like even if you're in marketing and you're doing benefits or not marketing. Oh my gosh, I'm getting my I'm getting my careers mixed up.
That's
If
okay.
you're in human resources and you're in benefits and you're like, I'm not really feeling benefits anymore. There's recruitment, there's payroll, there's employee relations, there's
Training.
labor law, which sometimes falls under the HR group.
Hmm.
And in marketing, there's digital marketing, there's physical marketing, which is, there's graphic design, which sometimes falls under that boat. Sometimes it's its own thing. But there's so many different things with even within your field. So, I explore those too. I think there's so many great options out there.
And you need to keep your mind open to possibilities because you never
Yeah.
know when someone will reach out to you and say, I've got this opportunity, or I know somebody who's got this opportunity. I think you'd be great at it. You may have never even thought about that. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden you're like, yeah, why not? But if you say, no, 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 I'm here and I'm in HR, I can't get out of this. This is what
Hmm.
I chose. Then you don't really grow.
No.
You get to a certain point and you maybe do become a little complacent because
Mhm.
you're not growing. You can grow a lot in HR. Like you can keep growing and
Yes.
keep
And
moving
you
up
could
the
be great at, I
ladder.
don't want it to seem like, if you're in your job for 30 years, you
No,
must be
not at
bad.
all.
No, you could be excellent.
Yeah.
There are some people who are excellent because they like what they're doing and
Yes.
they
And they're very
have a
good at
knack
what they
for it.
do because they
Yes,
like what they're doing.
exactly.
That is a
Exactly.
whole different story.
Right.
You can tell when someone loves their job. When you
Hmm.
go somewhere and you have interact with somebody and they
Yeah.
don't like their job, you know
Yeah.
exactly
You
that they
know,
don't like their job.
exactly. I
That's when I pass my business card. Do you need some
you
help?
should just mail me some. I'll do it too.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I mean, you can stay and get the gold watch as
yeah.
long as you feel like you're growing and you're enjoying and you're learning and you like what you're doing. But it's for the people that are really unhappy and
Yeah.
miserable with who they are and what they're doing,
Yeah.
but won't try to find something else. Those are the
And I,
people that I say, hey, you can be
yeah.
happy. You really can be happy again.
And I'll say because I'm an open book and if anybody's listening to this and ever wants to reach out to me, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or however you find me. But what I'll say too is, when in HR, and I don't want to say it wasn't the companies, it wasn't the people, there was nobody, it was not anything in specific, but I was so unhappy with what I was doing towards the end that I was crying a lot. I was not happy. And I felt a lot of, I would come home and that would be all I could think about until I went to bed. And then I wake up and that would be all I think about all day. And, it's nice, as someone who's on the grass is greener on the other side for me. I come home, I don't think about work really. Obviously you have the passing thought, but I get to enjoy my family. I get to enjoy my time.
Yeah,
And I get that space back because I'm not so worried about should I be doing something else or what am I'm so much more relaxed. And I think
that's
if you're in
great.
that boat where you're stressed and you think, well, what if I move to somewhere else and I hate it too and then I'm still crying after work and I don't,
But you
it's
do the
not like that.
research ahead of time and you
Yes,
talk to
yes,
the people
yes.
ahead of time and you get a really good feel. When you're in college, you can do internships and you can kind of
Yeah,
test the waters. As an adult, it's hard to do that. So the
it
next
is.
best thing is talking to people that are in those fields to say,
Yes.
what's your day like day to day? What do you love most
Mhm.
about it? What do you hate most about it? Do you,
Mhm.
what's challenging? Do you think there'll be jobs in the next 10 years? Like you
Mhm.
ask those kinds of questions, and you gather all that information like you did, and then
Yeah.
there is that moment where you have to kind of say, okay, I'm gonna take the big leap here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but you enjoyed it. You knew when working with you, you knew even when there were hard times and hard days and hard interviews, you still knew that this was what you wanted to do. Like you knew it
Yes.
internally, and
I
that
kn-
listen
yes.
to your gut.
I knew, and I think I was like, especially with the crazy interviews, I would, and you know what? There's going to be the crazy interviews.
Mhm.
If you're interviewing, there's always going to be a crazy interview. But now that I'm removed, at the time it wasn't as funny.
Yeah.
Um, but now that I have a career that I love and I'm working,
Yeah.
these are the things you're going to look back and laugh about. You know what I mean? Like obviously, I didn't have anything super crazy happen to me or anything, but like these are the things that they're character builders, I think. I think
Yeah,
you got it. And
absolutely.
I think but like you said, Karen, at the end of the day, even when the hard interview, I knew I was doing what was best for me and what I
Mhm.
knew I was gonna love. And I think, like, yeah, I
And you
think,
probably didn't feel that way in the very beginning, 2 years ago, or two, not, it was more than 2 years ago, but the 2 year time frame when you were thinking about it, and
mhm.
you probably didn't feel that confident at that moment.
No. Oh my gosh.
But as the process started to get into play, you became more and more. And then I think when you started taking those courses, like you
Yes.
enjoyed doing that. It
And
was fun for you.
yes, and you can be at, I know it's really hard at the end of the day when you work, 8 hours a day or 12 or whatever your schedule is, 10. Sometimes it's hard to get yourself to leave work and then do what feels like another work as a certification. I think it's so important to make that time for you because you're investing in yourself and you're investing in what makes you happy. And I think again, thankfully or unthankfully, I was unemployed, so I had all the time in the world to do all these things. Even now, as I'm in marketing, I think, there's so many things I still want to learn and taking. I still plan on taking more courses. Like I've been doing a lot of photography and videography in my work, and I would not say I have a background by any means in that. So, I'm trying to find someone who would be able to teach me that. And certification, I don't, I could take a basic photo. I could take maybe even a little bit more than basic photo, but I would not call myself a photographer or videographer. That would be embarrassing. That would be me like bringing photographers down a peg if I said I was a photographer. So, but there's still stuff I really want to do and learn, and I think these courses help you realize and it would and if I hadn't, I wish I had started it earlier, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, I waited until I was kind of at my lowest to kind of make that change. And I wish I had started earlier because I would have realized that I had the skills and the transferable skills. Because a lot of it too was self-confidence. I think you have to learn. I've learned to become very confident in myself. I have the background. You are intelligent enough to learn something new. Everyone is.
And it doesn't matter
And
how old you are either, because
no,
there are people that go back and get their degree and they could be 60, 70, 80 years old. And it's
I
just
just,
something that they wanted to check off, that they
yes.
did it.
And I just read something today on the internet, so I have no idea if it's true. So please fact check. But I read something today where somebody was 92 and they just got their fourth degree because they
Wow.
wanted to. And how awesome is
Wow.
that? That they are still learning at 92. And she said she wanted to go back for her fifth. She
Oh
just
my
enjoys
God.
learning like that. And, you
Wow.
know, I don't know how she pays for it.
Yeah. She'd be
God
good to
bless her.
have on
But
my podcast.
yeah,
Who is this
um,
person?
I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But still, there's never, like you said, it's never too late. It's never too late to learn something new. I think I wish I had started a little earlier. I think you don't, if you're thinking about this, you don't want this to be something you regret when you're
Mm.
retired and you wish you had done this or,
Or at least
or at
start the
least tried,
process.
or
Yeah, to
even tried,
see what's
tried
out there.
something, tried
Yeah,
something. Even
absolutely.
I feel that way even about hobbies. You wanted to learn how to roller skate. It doesn't matter how old you are. Find somebody who knows how to roller skate and is willing to teach you for half an hour how to roller
Yep.
skate,
Just get good knee pads if you're older.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take the precautions necessary, but
That's
that's
right.
with anything, right? You got to take the precautions and
That's
and
right.
and
That's right.
talk to people. I mean, like we talked about, talk to people in the fields that are doing what you think you want to be doing. Maybe not at your company if you don't want them to know, but
Right, then that might not be. But
but
no,
yeah.
I think that's the key to everything is you you can't make a decision if you don't have all the facts in front of you. Once you have
Yes.
all the information in front of you, you can pretty much make a really good decision for yourself. And
Yes.
so for the people that haven't who are thinking or know that they're not happy but don't know what to do, the only reason why you can't make this decision at this moment is because you don't have all the facts in front of you to say
Yeah.
which path is the better path for you to take. But that process takes time. So it's not like, you wake up the next morning and say, okay, I'm going to be X, Y, and Z. You slowly get comfortable with the direction that you would be taking through the
Hmm.
process. And I think
Exactly.
that is where people don't get, like, they might not understand that part.
And you'll find that like I get in most transitions, you have a lot of the skills already. You just didn't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah.
You have a lot of what you need.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yep.
and you have the willingness. If you're making even one step, you have the willingness and the eagerness to do it. And I
Yep.
think
And if you
that's
have the
90%
thought,
of it.
if
Yeah,
you have the thought right now that you're unhappy, why not explore? You got nothing to lose. You can still stay where
exactly.
you're at and still keep
Exactly.
doing that, but why not explore? You got really nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So, well, Kelsey, I really appreciate this. Like you
Yes,
taking your
thank
time
you.
today to talk to us. I know that there are a number of people who are going to listen to this and really relate to so many different things. So, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me, and it's been a pleasure talking with you and working with you for the last almost 2 years, I think. So I'm not
Well,
doing the math,
I
but
really do appreciate it.
yes, thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for listening. If this podcast resonates with you, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so that you can be notified when we have more that drop. Let's be kind, everyone. It starts with you and I. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for listening.